consent agenda. You see the minutes from the January 20th meeting. Any questions, concerns, or corrections on those? Okay, if not, bill list. Dan, I see you did bills. Everything was fine there. Now, we do have an extra bill list. State wrestling meals, state swimming tickets, and FFA supplies. So if everybody took a look at those, that were in your packet tonight. Let's see, regular bill list, everybody got to look at that. Resignations, you see that in your handout, personal handout. Any items withdrawn from the consent agenda? Field trips, I see we have a few of those.
Excuse me, there's 3 field trips. FFA to the FFA Leadership Conference in Ames on Monday, April 20th. We return April 21st, that's an overnight. Justin Koski and Bill Polking, speech coaches, request an overnight in Cedar Falls for students competing in state speech, UNI. And then after the fact, state swimming competition, which was last weekend.
Any questions for Mr. Forrest on field trips? All right. If not, then I'll need a motion to approve, please.
Move to recommend the consent agenda as stated.
Dan,
Yes.
Laverne,
Yes.
Dwayne,
Yes.
Kim,
Abstain?
Jen. Yes.
Okay, public forum, Mr. Forrest. Public forum. All right, then we're gonna move on to what's happening in the classroom.
That's us.
Ladies,
I don't know.
go right ahead, it's all yours.
All right. Okay. Well, the project that we are here to talk about is blogging. And it's something new that, my name's Rachel Menken, and I teach 8th grade English at the middle school. And they probably don't know you.
Hi, I'm Kelly Schultz, and I'm the K-12 Technology Integrationist.
And I have never used blogging in my classroom before. So this is the first year that I have used blogging, and it was something new to me. I wasn't sure what I thought about blogging to begin with, but I knew that with this particular activity, what I wanted to do with my students this year was to connect with students outside of the district, whether they were other 8th grade students or even high school students. And I brought Mrs. Schultz in to talk to me about some different options, and blogging is actually what we decided on. And what we liked about blogging is it gave the students choice. They could pretty much write about whatever they wanted to, and we thought that was good for 8th graders. They have a lot of interests, a lot of things that they want to learn more about and research more on, so that's why we chose blogging. We also looked at the Iowa Core and tapped into some of our understanding with AIW and how we could really enhance the students' learning through that. And with Iowa Core, blogging hits a lot of the 21st century standards and benchmarks, and also getting in with writing, it does the same. So Kelly and I sat down, we talked about how to present it to the students, a different format that we could use with the students, and I'll show you kind of the handout that I work with students on. Do you want to?
And this wasn't just something that we said, okay, your blog has to look like this, it has to be this size. A lot of times students get directions and teacher-led directions. Okay, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. This was more of an exploratory that they could just, this interests me, this topic interests me. And I came in at the very beginning of this project, and they designed their blog, their own blog. So a blog is just called, it's short for a weblog. So it's pretty much an online journal. You could think of it that way, and where they can write, and then also other people can comment on. So that was one day when I came in, and I met with all the classes, and they designed their own blog. You want to show them that?
Yes. I didn't know which one. You want to, like a student, one of the student blogs?
Yeah, let's show that as an
We
example.
did talk first about, what would be some interesting topics. If others are going to read your blog, what are some topics that you could use to inspire others and to connect with others? And we really need to tap into what do we know about, what do we want to learn more about. And so I do have some spotlight blogs here that I'll share with you. And the blogs, they range from experiments that have failed, that have been successful, that students actually do themselves. They will write what they think is going to happen with their experiment. Then they will actually record themselves performing the experiment, upload it to YouTube, and then they will post that onto their blog. We have a lot of sports blogs going on where students they'll learn more about specific teams that they want to know about, make predictions. You can even add polls to interact with others to bring them back to the blog. Music, a lot of music, individual games. Kids love games and want to play them, critique them. And then cooking. Cooking was another blog option that kids really latched onto.
So this is stuff that they're doing, that they do outside of the classroom. So here they're finding something that they like to do. It's not a requirement in the class, and in Rachel's class, they write about it. So I just think that's a great way to make it more meaningful to the student. It's not just the teacher saying, write this essay about this topic. It's really them going out and exploring and then happening outside the classroom.
It is, and I will tell them, okay, your next blog entry is due next Monday. We don't spend any time during class actually doing the blogging. It's something that they do completely on their own outside of class. And this is probably one of the biggest and most attractive activities that we do in the class that kids really want to do, and pretty much everybody does it. They have it done on time.
And I think if you did the same lesson and just say, okay, hand it in on paper, you're not going to get this type of quality. You're just not, because then the teacher's the only audience member. I think that's what you got to look at too. These students know somebody else is going to be looking at their blog, so they take really big ownership of it and really try to capture their attention. So they added videos, so they take.
This is Julia LaRue.
She takes her own
experimenting.
So she takes video and she embeds it into her blog. She writes about it. I want to see, what did she do?
And if you saw up above, she made predictions. What is her predictions? And she talked about the steps that she went about to make this particular experiment happen. She has scientific reasoning in there. Why did it happen, and what did she discover from this particular experiment that she had done?
So after we made these blogs, they felt comfortable. They started sharing it between class periods.
Yes, and we have blog browsing days where students have to view other students. They have to comment. You'll see here that, for example, for this one, Julia has 3 comments on it. They have to comment on other students' blogs. And I did have Kelly come in and work with the kids on how to post a comment. Because posting a comment is something different than writing up a reflection paragraph. There are certain steps that you have to follow in posting a comment on a blog.
And then I wanted to reach out. It's not, okay, we have it here at school. Yeah, they're used to seeing each other, like, oh, I want to check out my friend. Like, all right, now I contacted Nevada first and got in contact with their technology integrations to see if there is somebody that is interested in connecting and collaborating. And it worked. We got a class from Nevada to check out their blogs and comment back. And that was actually the neatest thing. When I came back, the kids were so excited to look at what did other people say about my blog from other schools. They don't know who they are. But that's when I came in and I wanted to teach them about, okay, how do you keep this conversation going? We're not just going to say, yeah, your blog is really cool. No, we want to keep this, ask questions, or some of them, they gave suggestions on their blog. Well, have you ever tried this recipe? And so then our students wrote back to those students. So it kept
opens up that conversation going between students from a school district, an hour and a half plus away.
And it's just something that can, and it's still you're writing and with actually a real purpose there, with a real audience, just makes it so much better. I've contacted in the works with ESAC. I've met with their technology.
Elkhorn, Zyra, we have also exchanged with them, and that was a high school class that we worked with. And their comments, I think, were stronger than the comments that we got from Nevada, just because they were older kids, and the conversation, I think, was a lot more meaningful to my students. And there was one student, he's from Nevada, and we exchanged with them, that was before Christmas break.
Oh, yeah.
But they, with one of the students' blogs, they continue to have a conversation back and forth. It's a gaming blog is what it is. Well, the student in beta is real interested in the particular games that my student is reflecting on, and so they have kind of developed a friendship, if you will, through the blog.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
Good.
And I did ask some students, what they thought. Back to the simple blue.
You have too many tabs.
I do. I feel like I need every tab. But I did ask students what they thought about blogging. And, for the most part, students really enjoy it. They talk about how it's getting to know other people and understanding where other people's interests are. Garrett Sherbrun, blogging is like getting to know and understanding people. It is a way that you can get to know others' ideas, hopes, and dreams, and showing people that you are into it. I think that Megan Sorensen at the end, what was neat about her response is that, she really likes her blog. It's about clothing. She would like to create her own clothing line, and she has an app on her phone, and she's playing around with different items that she likes, and she does represent that in her blog, but this is something that she wants to continue to do and grow with and be able to show things off in her blog. I do have another student, Ashlyn Brandt, who her blog is a do-it-yourself type of blog, and she creates projects. She's created some really cool ones. She works with her grandpa on them, and she was wondering if she could start trying to sell some of her items through her blog. I mean, that's a whole other world getting into that, but just how they are looking to find new ways to use their blog. I think it's really cool, and that's all coming from them.
Do you have any
How
questions?
many you have kids have to read another kid's blog? How many kids do you require to read each other's blog?
So when we have our blog browsing days, each student has to review a minimum of 2 blogs per class,
Okay.
and they have to comment. And what I do is they comment right on the blog. The grading part is where I'm still trying to figure out the best approach for grading these. It's more of like a participation thing, because the kids are all very active in doing it, and so that's the approach I take. But to see their comments, make sure that they're following the format that Kelly has worked with them on. I have them comment to copy and paste their comment from the student's blog onto a document that they have shared with me through Google Classroom, and that's how I hold the kids accountable for their comments.
You ever looked at doing a class overseas? I mean, you wouldn't have to worry about time constraints.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. That's,
Where, we could go pretty far with blogging. And, this being the first year, there's a few things that we need to work through, but I would really like to do, I'll obviously continue this next year, but branch out even more. This year, we just started off with 2 other school districts that latched on, and then we're still waiting to hear back from Kemper and East Sac. But I would like to take it a step further now that I have a stronger background, because I didn't have very positive feelings about blogging to begin with, and so this was kind of a stretch for me to do this. But I would definitely be interested and have every
Badly,
intention to.
doesn't it?
He does Skype.
Skyping, that's right. See, Skyping, you have to worry about,
Time.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
for blogging,
yeah, it's,
And how your hair looks.
huh, and how you're, I worry about that.
You can tell.
That's interesting. So the engagement is really high.
Very much so.
but they're still doing the writing test, but it's just a whole nother.
It's a different format. We have we have formal writing, and we have our informal writing, and then this just is another version of informal writing. It's another format. And I think the commenting part is important for the kids to know how to give that feedback and that reflection piece. It's different than what we normally teach in the classroom. So just opens them up to different styles of writing.
No other questions?
Thank you.
Ladies, thank you very much.
Thank you.
For taking time out of your evening, so very interesting. Had the kids taught you anything on the blogging that
Yes.
they've been doing already?
I learned a lot.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on to the public hearing for the Fairview Elementary Addition and renovation project.
We had a bid opening yesterday, and Tom Wallin from FRK is here, and he will share those with you prior to the next agenda item, but on a project of this nature, this is about a $2.8 million project. And so you're required to hold a public hearing, and so anyone that wishes to can speak for or against the project. So I recommend that you open the public hearing.
All right, we're gonna open up the public hearing at 6:17. And are there any comments from the public about our project? Go ahead, Virginia.
What, I got a couple questions.
Sure.
What budget does this come out of now?
Comes out of the $6.8 million that the board sold revenue bonds for, that's being paid back from sales tax revenue.
Okay, I was gonna ask about, other associated costs. Does that come out of that too, or is that, you're gonna have some of that out of your basic budget?
No,
It all comes out
the,
of that?
what we would refer to as the soft cost of the architectural fees, testing for the ground testing, cement testing, all of that, all associated costs come out of that same fund.
Just utilities and maintenance would come out of your other budget?
Ongoing costs,
Yeah.
when the project is completed, you mean? Yes.
You don't have a estimate of what addition that would be?
No.
Okay, any other comments from the public? If not, we're going to close the public hearing at 6:18. Okay, then we'll move on to consider the bids for the Fairview project.
Tom, do you want to lead him through that?
Sure. Tom Wallen, FRK Architects. Thank you for your attention tonight. We have a project that was out for bid for the Fairview Elementary Gymnasium and Administration Addition, plus an interior renovation. Part of the bid was an alternate bid to provide permanent doors and walls in the north wing of the building, where there are currently temporary operable partitions. That was the alternate bid to the project. We received 2 bids yesterday, one from Jensen Builders out of Fort Dodge and one from Bating Construction here in Carroll. And the apparent low, which is the company that had the lower bid, this is public bid, so you have to go by who's lowest bid. Jensen Builders had a bid of $2,865,800, and Bating Construction had a bid of $2,908,000. The alternatives to do the classroom renovation, Jensen Builders was $486,600, and Bating Construction, I'm sorry, Jensen was $486,000, Bating was $397,000. These bids were a little bit higher than we had anticipated in our cost opinion for the project. We have done some research, talking with contractors, getting a feel for where things are at in the bid climate right now. Contractors are saying that lots of folks have lots of work from last year carrying over to this year, and some construction costs are a little bit on the rise. We had some inflation of some of the program over the last few months, which also contributed to the bids being a little bit higher than we had anticipated. But we do feel these bids are good bids. What we typically look for in a bidding situation are bids to be very tight. That means everybody's bidding on the same thing. So we do believe that both these bids are good competitive bids. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board or anyone might have regarding the project.
What did we anticipate the project total?
About 2.324. I put some information together for you that's in your folder, that, you know, before you make a decision on this. One of the sheets is entitled Fund 8900 Sale of Revenue Bonds, which is an ongoing list of costs that have been associated with previous construction projects. Remember, you started out with $6.8 million. With bills paid tonight, you spent about $3.9 million. And you have about $2.8 million left, almost $2.9 million. If you look at that, excuse me, and you look at the sheet that's titled Fairview Gym and Office Construction Project, on the excuse me, on the left side you see the expenditures. The low bid for the project is $2.8 million. I projected the soft cost for the project of $300,000 simply because we've paid some of that soft cost already. Other costs associated with the project is nothing but a guesstimate on my part of $150,200, including moving playground equipment, furniture, any technology, electronic door access, anything else that may come up in that. My guess is you'll need about $3.3 million to do this project. As I said, you have 2.8, which means you're about $516,000 short. On the right side, you look at our revenues with bills paid tonight for both sales tax and PEPL. Sales tax, you have about $1.2 million. You have $722,000 of revenue to come in yet this fiscal year. Let's get you to $1.9 million. You have obligations that you have to have in the bank on April 15th, 2015 of $616,207. That includes paying off the bond indebtedness on the middle school, about $169,000, and then you have $400 and some thousand in revenue bond payments next fiscal year. So that's where the $616,207 comes for. You're required to have that in the bank, not on future revenue, but in the bank when you certify your budget later this year. So if you take that off of there, then you'd have $1.3 million left in your sales tax fund. Currently on PEPL, you have about $143,000. I'm projecting about another $166,000 to come in yet this year in the next few months. If you add all of those together, you get $1.6 million. And then I just did the subtraction of to fund that overage of $516,000. You'd still have over $1 million left between those two funds. Then you have $1.4 million coming in during FY16 from SAVE, and you have $305,000 coming in FY16 from the board-approved PEPL. So if the question is, can we afford this project? The answer is yes, you can. What does that mean? It means that you're not going to do some other projects that we would probably typically do with some of these funds in the summertime. So there would be $516,000 that we wouldn't be spending in the summertime because we're gonna be spending it on this project if you choose to go ahead with this project. You got a lot of different choices. Some I would recommend, some I would not. But to lay some of those out, you can vote not to do the project. You can vote to do the project as is, as bid. You can choose to do either the office or the gym and have the project rebid. It would require you to have the project rebid if you did one or the other. I would not recommend that personally, but that's not my decision. So there's a number of scenarios that could play out. My recommendation to you would be is if this is a project that's a priority for the board, then I would say move forward with it, as is. I would not do the alternate. It's.
Rob, are there any projects for the summer that we should consider as far as if we go forward with this, and that your comment about, we're not gonna have it, what potential projects would that stop in the summer? I'm not aware of anything, that's just.
Jeff can probably answer that question better than I can. We met last week, I guess it was, and I've asked him to. There's always projects to do in the district. From replacing windows to sealing asphalt, to replacing asphalt, to putting new heat pumps in, etc. And so there's always ways for that money to be spent. I think if Jeff was given a budget of $500,000 to $600,000, that could be spent quite easily, to be very honest. And he can explain what those are. Also remember that these funds are also used for transportation vehicles, technology equipment, other major equipment, mowers, etc., that are over the threshold. And so I would I would not, unless you're going to do one or the other. Other than that, I would not cut the project. I would not make the gym smaller, for example. I would not make the office area smaller. I think at some point you're going to regret that. And so, obviously, it's certainly, as you can see, it will definitely be a tight budget.
Jeff, do you remember when we did the walkthrough at the retreat and you had it on your list? I wish I would have brought that. What you had for this upcoming summer on there? You had your timeline of what projects, basically maintenance of the buildings and what was.
The items that I prioritized for this year basically is window replacement at Adams, window replacement at the middle school. We're doing a study right now with FRK for air quality at the high school, addressing some issues there. Those are probably the big ones. Then there's some tuck pointing on the exterior of the high school that needs to be taken care of. Some waterproofing issues at Adams on the exterior around the windows that needs to be addressed. Those are the majority of them.
What do you think that budget-wise, are we looking at money for?
Well, until I know, we don't know what the total cost on the study that we're doing for the air quality at this point. Kind of waiting for that number to come in, and I haven't, we're looking at doing windows in phases, so, depending on what money is spent on some projects might affect how many windows we do at each building each summer. And we've started doing some roof replacement at the high school, means that building is coming on 25 years old. We've been phasing that in, and that could determine whether we do a large section or a smaller section. It just kind of depends on where the numbers come in.
What is the air quality at the high school? The mandate that we have to,
Well, there's regulations for CO2 levels. We're just addressing that. They're updating our exchange air. And the units getting old, heat pumps are getting old. Rather than waiting for them to fail, we're starting to look at replacing them in phases also. Trying to be a little proactive instead of waiting for them to fail.
and the new radon thing that the state's requiring us to do, would that come out of this fund also?
If we had to do something, yes.
The radon is not mandated yet except for the preschool. And,
That's all, basically all Fairview, right?
yeah,
Because it's
there's
anywhere
4
the
classrooms
preschool
at
classes are.
Or
Yeah.
4 classrooms at Fairview that will need to be tested.
Will they have to do the gym and
No.
that area? No common areas like that?
No. Bathrooms, hallway, or closets, those areas don't have to be tested currently. Under the new protocol that they're looking to mandate, there's a lot of changes that will affect that.
There's an air circulation problem at the high school, and he's working on trying to resolve that by doing stuff, but we had to replace some parts of the heat pump out there just this last month again, and, you know, rather than throwing good money after bad fixing that old one, they're 25 years old, probably should get ready to start changing.
Jeff, I noticed there's a couple pretty good potholes on that parking lot at the high school.
Yeah, those,
They're not even potholes, they're.
that's damage from the construction that the winter caught us too soon before we were able to get them fixed last fall.
So, but
Those
those
are
are
slated
some-
to be repaired this summer.
My question, Jeff, is, let's say we didn't do any of the projects, just say we had zero money to spend on any projects, would we be in that big of trouble if we had to wait a year?
No, not compared to where we've been. I mean, the buildings are, I feel, in a lot better condition at this point than they have been in the past. These aren't brand new issues with the windows, they're not brand new issues with the parking lots. So, we're just trying to get caught up, is kind of the way I feel.
So basically, if we had to wait a year for some of these projects, we're gonna be all right.
I feel we would be.
Are we gonna have more damage though? Like, when I see the middle school and that one window that,
It hasn't gotten
not just that one
significantly
window, but
worse.
several of the windows look like they're rotting, gonna fall out at any moment, and then
Right.
the bricks, you know, if you don't maintain something, you just have it get worse and worse and worse, like your house, if you don't maintain it. Are we gonna get ourselves into something?
We can do
worse?
things through our custodial staff to, slow down but, some of those windows, they might have to be replaced. I mean, but it's not like they just happened last year. They've been that way
Yeah.
for multiple years, so, and they're not getting, tremendously worse each year. So, I mean, yes, it's something that needs addressed, but it's not going to fall out within a year.
These are just projects on your list that need to be done.
They've been on the list
Yeah.
for multiple years. We're just trying to take care of them as we can.
So when they bid it, do they bid it by the area? Can you tell us what the cost was for, like, the area, or is it just one big project when they bid it for the Fairview, for the gym and for the entrance area?
Yeah, we wouldn't get what's called a schedule of values, which tells us exactly what each portion cost until the contractor were brought on board. They'd share that information with us. So it'd be just kind of a general square foot number over both the pieces that we'd be looking at this point, not broken down. There's a copy of the bid tab too, if you'd like to take a look at that. I have some extra copies here as well. That's the cost of doing, but brought a few copies of the bid tab, if you'd like to look at that.
Are we looking at making the, are we looking at making the temporary walls, or be permanent walls?
That's what the alternate bid is.
That's
And
that
that's
second
not
number
in
scale.
That's not in the 2.8 million. You gotta add that number to it.
Like,
And then you have a different low bidder if you take the alternate.
yeah, this
That's we're not doing.
Superintendent Cordes brought up a good point. Jensen is the apparent low for just the base bid, but if you add both numbers together, Baiting would be the apparent low if you did both the base bid and the alternate. But you're not required to take the alternate, that's your choice.
Do we have like contingency or some money coming back from the other project? For the,
High school project?
right,
So they subtracted the fees that we didn't use all off of the last final bill.
Yeah.
a little bit should come off this one.
I got,
Well, there's contracts.
for both of them, the alternate, Baiting was 3305,
Yep.
and Jensen was 3352.
You had a difference of $47,400. You had a difference of $42,200 on the base bid.
So how could we get to 2.8 million? Can we scale back?
Let me talk about scaling back. We did that on our high school project, and everybody saw what happened there. Then we had to add on to our high school, and then it cost a whole lot more money when we added on. To take everybody back in history, when we built our high school, we had a hard time getting that vote through, as Virginia remembers, so we scaled it way, way, way back. Okay, our high school should look like Atlantic High School does today. That's same plan. Well, we scaled it back, and then later on, we had to add on. And that cost a whole lot more money than if you just leave the project right where it's at and build what you want. I mean, we're not, what the difference is here is, we're gonna have to hold Jeff back on some projects for 1 year. Not 2 years, not 3 years, but just for a year. And then we can get back on schedule again. So, yeah, the bids did come in a little higher than what we thought, but still, if you look at the whole, all the projects we've done, we're still doing awfully well for where we started and where we're for a lot of different things we've done. And I'm sure on some of our projects, we probably added a few things here and there, but, look at the nice projects we have now. What the end result is, middle school, the wrestling room, all very nice buildings. We didn't scale back, we kept them where they were, and now you see what you got, something very nice to be proud of. So I definitely don't suggest on scaling back on a project, because this school district's done that before, and it's just not a good thing to do.
But we don't wanna be building for either, where we can't maintain the buildings we currently have and have them go downhill because of not having the
This is just a
capability
one-year
to pay
deal.
for it.
It's a one-year deal we have to hold back.
But we don't know what's gonna happen with the air quality.
It's not gonna get any worse.
It's not gonna get any work, none of the projects, that's why I asked Jeff, if we don't do anything this year, are we gonna be in that much trouble on any of, all the projects?
But why not do it in phases? Why go all
No.
in?
You have to rebid it.
Then you gotta rebid it, and then we're gonna have to pay that
And
gentleman
then we
some
gotta,
more money.
we don't have that much, we gotta spend it. We're only allowed to hold this money so long.
How long are we allowed to
3
hold?
years.
And we're gonna be.
So when's that time up?
By the time the construction is done,
We're gonna be close to it.
it's gonna be close.
We can't wait another year.
No.
If you rebid the same thing, more, 9 times out of 10, it's gonna get higher.
because everybody's filled up on projects, help with that, Tom, like,
That
saying
may
that
not
right?
be good.
And then,
I'll be up to October or November of 16.
This project was one of the first school projects we
No,
did,
no.
actually probably the first school project in the state of Iowa, and the numbers are what they are. It's really hard to know where bids are gonna go. I talked to a bunch of contractors today, just do some investigation, and they're a little bit worried about where numbers are going right now. So you could see some savings, you'd see savings if you lopped a portion of this off and just did part of it. But, the cost of just that piece would likely be more than what you're seeing for the numbers now.
I think we need to
explained that very well.
be careful we don't lose sight of why we're doing this, is to free up that space in the current gym and the efficiencies.
I actually
You know,
want,
we just gotta be careful we don't lose sight of that, why we're even doing it, you know, making this move, get the gyms, we can free up the gym for, the PE, so they don't have that conflict, lunchroom. There's some savings there, not having to move that stuff back and forth all the time.
I actually wanna talk going the other way a little bit, instead of, doing the alternatives. Them all, get it done. And you're at 3-3. Is that gonna be,
You're at 3.3, but then you also have to add the soft cost and,
Yeah, I know that.
and everything else.
you're gonna,
I mean,
you're gonna
run
add
into a
on,
lot more money.
you're gonna add on
We're at
another
3.7.
400,000.
We're at 3.7.
Then instead of a shortfall of
Right, I know that.
516, you're gonna have a shortfall of probably no more than that.
You know,
It'd be close to $1 million where it's said and done.
Is that a realistic cost for the soft cost? Being that you do this for a living, for the soft cost, 150,000, would that be
I think,
doable?
Soft cost is 300,000.
There's 300.
There's more to it. That's probably not a lot.
Oh, I'm sorry, other costs associated with,
Right.
I should be
Besides-
asking you
besides
that,
the
Rob.
soft cost.
is that, you think that's doable, that 150,000 for the furniture and the doors and all that stuff on there?
Well, we'd have to, we did not put scoreboards, in the bid of the gymnasium, so we'll have to buy those. We didn't do the electronic doors, we do have a bid tonight, later on the agenda. Furniture will be minimal, technology will be very minimal. That would be something if the board elected to, like, for example, put cameras in the entryway or something like that. I think it's realistic, and if anything, I would tell you it's probably on the high end. On the soft cost, you know, the opinion was 380 down. And we paid a bill tonight, we paid a bill tonight in the neighborhood of 70-some thousand, and so, you know, I just took that off there and estimated it at 300,000, that's what I want, one thing I want to clear up is this air quality issue is not a new issue at Carroll High School. Okay, I mean, that's been around almost as long as the building's been built, and especially since the addition's been put. And it's an airflow issue. And it was the sign of the times when they designed the building. Jeff and Tom can probably tell it better than I can. When you get down to the end, there's not enough air going through there because the rooms prior to that take up the air. We want to fix that and get better air circulation.
So it's
Which would-
basically ductwork and how it was.
It's a lot of duct work in the new revised issue, and you know, that's a project, regardless when we start that's a project that will be done in phases. We're not gonna do that. That's probably if you did all that project at once, you're probably looking at between a $900,000 and $1.2 million project. I personally, of somebody that works with these numbers, I can live with the overage of 516. To live with the overage of 900,000 to $1 million is a whole lot harder pill for me to swallow. And I'd like to have that done, but hasn't been done for as long as the building's been there. We've gotten along pretty well. So,
So the number that I'm looking at changing is this 1,198,000 on this sheet route.
which sheet are you on?
Fairview Gym and Office Construction Project. That's the balance that I would be looking at affecting.
Yes.
So we'd be taking a 400,000 off of that.
Minimum.
Yes.
Right here,
The $1,098,000.
take another.
Then you certainly are going to, have an impact on what projects
Yes,
you
I
will do.
understand. I just want-
Then you're basically not doing anything at all this summer other than buying some
And there is gonna
technology.
be some heat pumps going on in high school, because on these bills, they've been fixed.
And I just,
Sort of cashed them instead of. We can do that ventilation stuff in phases, but it'd be nice to know what we're gonna do so that if we have to change a heat pump, at least you can put the right one in at the time. Or the plan, right? Or if one goes out, you put that one in and.
Any other comments, board members?
I would be in favor for sleeping on this for a couple of days and maybe come back.
That's just gonna be my next question.
Back,
How soon
at
do we have
a
to
noon
have an
meeting or
answer?
something, and then decide or something, whatever works, or it wouldn't take long, but thought about it for a while, I like to do this, but.
How many deadline do we have, Rob?
I think bids are good for 30 days. Is that right, Tom?
That's correct.
We don't have any special meetings planned, do we cover that stuff?
Schedule one.
Or we'll have to.
Well, we'll have to.
Yeah.
I would say no later than next Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
Maybe even Monday. Okay. Friday?
We could,
That's too quick?
well, you could do one, you could do one by cell phone.
Yeah, I can call in.
Okay. What do you got next Monday? Yeah, well, we're doing a noon meeting.
I was going to a meeting Monday, but I don't have to go.
Tuesday.
I'm gone.
You're gone.
I'm gone Tuesday, probably Friday.
What about Saturday?
This Saturday? You can still do it by cell phone.
Friday.
Do it late Friday.
From what?
I mean, I'd probably get back in town about 5:30. But I would imagine she's gonna be gone Saturday. You gonna leave Friday, Jim?
No.
Oh. Yeah, we can do Friday, early evening. You can do Monday, I mean,
Are you just going to a meeting again on Monday?
no, I need
All
in
day?
the morning.
Might call in.
I'm not sure I have to be here either.
You're talking this Friday.
I'm doing this, well, Friday and Monday. I mean, if you want to go at
I can do both.
I can, I can get back here probably by 5:30 on this night.
So Monday at noon, is that what we're talking?
Friday's fine, on Friday. I'd have to call him.
He just said Monday. Doesn't matter to me, I'm gonna be here.
Yeah, I'm here for he's Friday, I can do Friday.
Friday, 5:30? All right.
Make a motion on that. So the other one, we're just gonna table, so we don't have to worry about that.
We'll need a motion. to
Yeah,
table.
we'll need a motion though for that meeting.
Well, we'll need a motion to table this too.
Okay, all right.
I'll move that we, table the current discussion for Fairview Jam Off construction project and move it to a meeting on Friday, February 20th at 5:30.
I'll second.
Vern,
Yes.
Wayne,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Is there any additional information you need from me on that meeting, for that meeting?
Can't think of anything right now.
You're out of line.
Okay. All right, then we're gonna move on to donations.
You have two donations this month. Family of Bruce Pettit would like to donate $1,000 to the Carroll High School golf program in his memory. Bruce lost his battle with cancer on March 5th, 2012. He was an avid sports fan. Members of his family have hosted a golf and bowling event in October the past 2 years in Bruce's honor and have donated the money to various causes in the community. Des Moines Area Community College would like to donate a water bath to Carroll High School Science Department. This will be used by the chemistry and biology classes to keep things at a constant temperature during experiments.
As always, first of all, any comments on donations? If not, as always, we always appreciate donations from different families, organizations, for whatever they suggest for the Carroll High School programs and middle school, et cetera. So with that, I'll need a motion to approve, please.
I move to accept the donations as stated in our agenda.
Second.
Wayne,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Laverne.
Okay, moving on to personnel. Sue, if you want to take the first one?
Yeah, I'm recommending Dinah Conrad for a teacher associate position at Fairview. She's a graduate of University of Wyoming with a BA in elementary education. She's worked as a substitute teacher for 1 year in Kansas City in the early 90s. After that, she was a stay-at-home mom. She has most recently been employed at Feld Equipment. If approved, she would work 6 hours per day and be paid $10.10, the beginning wage for a general FTA, $9.80 plus 30 cents per hour for having a BA degree. If approved, she would be hired retroactive to January 26th, 2015.
Comrie is recommending Jeff Lauer as a contracted bus driver. Jeff previously drove for CCSD as a driver since 2011 until a knee injury caused him to resign his position in October of 2014. Prior to 2011, Jeff was a substitute activity driver for 20 years. He's been released by his physician to return to driving. He would, if approved, he would be paid the base pay of $1,033 a month, then be hired retroactive to February 16th. Approval is recommended. Teacher Leadership and Compensation Committee consisting of teachers and administrators are recommending the following people for instructional coaches as part of the Carroll Community School Teacher Leadership and Compensation Plan. Kelly Schultz as the instructional coach for technology, Ann Kluber for instructional coach at the middle school, and Angie Emmerich, instructional coach at Carroll High School. The instructional coach position for the elementary is yet to be filled. Ask that those be approved.
And what's the start date on number 3? Those positions?
That's negotiable, because there's some training this summer that they will have to attend. In that plan, that calls for 10 additional contract days, and so there isn't a specific start date,
Okay.
because we don't know when all the trainings are gonna be.
Any other questions, comments? No, that is, I'll need a motion to approve, please.
I'll move to approve the employment recommendations as stated.
Second.
Kim,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Laverne,
Yes.
Dwayne. Yes.
Okay, moving on, administrative report, reports from building principals. Sue, do you wanna start us off, please?
I have a couple of things that I thought were, will be important. We had our data day last Monday, a week ago Monday, and this is when teachers went through and analyzed their data that we collected from FAST and IGD's, this winter testing. So the teachers spent time on, last Wednesday then revamping their Tiger Time teams, looking at their whole class instruction or small group instruction, or possibly grade level interventions, like if the class is accurate but not fluent, it means that they know how to sound out words, but they're not moving at a quick enough pace to get the true meaning. So they're working on some of those strategies, especially at second and third grade, where accuracy is very good. They also tell me what they want set up on the website, and I set up the interventions on the website for those kids that are identified as not meeting benchmark. And then I set up the progress monitoring, so they have to do weekly progress monitoring for those students who are not proficient, or we call it red. If it shows up red, if it's green, then you've met benchmark. If it's red, you have not met benchmark. So then that leads me into the second point I'd like to share with you, is that once we got that testing done and we realized the two reds, fall red, winter red, it's based on different criteria for each grade level, but second, third, and fourth would be on fluency and accuracy, reading a passage. And so once we look at that, we find that those students who have had a fall, have not met benchmark in red, in fall or winter, are considered substantially deficient. And this is a term used by the state of Iowa. This isn't the new law that we're implementing right now. So what we did was last Monday, we worked on creating contracts that involved what are the teachers going to do, what are the parents going to do, what the students are going to do, and what the principals are going to do to support this child, to get the child to being at benchmark for spring testing. So we wrote those, and now we've set up meetings. So what happened was, there's a letter that went out. But first of all, teachers called the parents of students who were red, and it varies per grade level, the number of students who were in the red. And they told them that their child, was substantially deficient, use that term. The state says you must use that term. And then set up a conference. Diane and I have sat in, we try to get to kind of balance out if I'm available, she's available. And then the teacher goes through and talks to the parents about what am I doing as a classroom teacher for whole group instruction, small group instruction, what are we doing in Tiger Time, what's happening in Title I reading if the child's in there, what's happening in special ed if the child's in there. And we sit and talk about it and determine how we're gonna get the student, what's it gonna take to get the student proficient by the end of April when we do our spring testing. And then everybody sits around the table and we talk about the contract, sign the contract, and so it becomes a document. And that's part of the package. The law said, that once we identify these students, we must communicate with the parents, set up a conference, sign a contract. So that's part of that. The third thing I'd like to share is last time was preschool registration, and we didn't have as good a turnout as what we thought. We probably only had about 50% of our parents that had signed up online attend, and I'm hoping that this week Cindy will get on the phone and start calling some of the parents to remind them, you've got to come in because we have to have the birth certificate, we have to have immunization before the child can be truly registered. And then lastly, just for your information only, I put out a letter to all of our parents who had signed up for kindergarten and just talked to them and asked if they were interested in a transitional kindergarten, which is different than an optional kindergarten, because transitional kindergarten, there is no such thing in Iowa in public schools as a transition or as an optional kindergarten. You go with, a kindergartner is a kindergarten, so you work toward those standards. And I have received probably about interest of probably 11 or 12 parents that are interested, but all of them want full day kindergarten for this transitional program. So they consider their child would be in kindergarten for 2 years. And I met with one this afternoon, and it's just kind of a feeler to see if they might be interested. How many, oh, I'm sorry. So far about 12 have responded. And so we're kind of looking, it's just a feeler, but it's the interest is not for a half-day program. And just like it wasn't when we tried to do it about 4 or 5 years ago, we talked about it. So I'm trying.
Does that have to do with like a certain age group that you're working with?
It's
or-
kindergarten, you are kindergarten.
I know, but I mean, age groups of those
No,
kindergarten?
it doesn't, birthday's not the definer. Sometimes it is for the parent, but it's
Is-
not necessary.
So is a full day easier for you to
It's,
manage than a half day?
It is, it's, full day's easier for kids, kind of, because you can, you know, they
Just-
wanna be in lunch, they wanna be at specials, and if you do a half-day program, you probably aren't gonna, well, for sure, you're not doing lunch, you're not doing specials, they don't get to go to art, music, PE, you know, they don't get that extra recesses and stuff like that, and I would just, I shouldn't say stuff like that. But, you know what I mean, they don't get to do the Sunday stuff that we do.
Another question I would have, if you get into, let's say you only end up with 12 kids, but I do feel that this is something that's pretty simple, where kids just are not ready
Right.
to bring them in, even if it's a smaller class. I mean, I may be pretty supportive of bringing another
Yeah.
teacher on board to help fill a need like this, because what I don't wanna do is pull one teacher out of kindergarten and all of a sudden take those classes that are 24 to a 28, and gets back into.
No, and that's what I don't want either, because if this gets to be too big of a class, or if you're overloading another kindergarten, then you're really got a problem. So I really want to be thoughtful about it, so. And one thing my gut feeling tells me that if we go with a pretty good group of, you know, 14, 15, we will add on maybe a couple more in the fall
Yeah.
as time goes. But I'm hoping parents take
Well-
my letter seriously. I've also talked to preschool teachers that when they're meeting with them for conferences, really talk about, you know, if you're interested in that, this is fine.
What are you gonna do if you have a real high interest that you have?
Right now, I don't anticipate it, because I'm not getting that
Well,
response.
the other thing I look at it with this is that you've got, when you don't do this, you've got, let's say there's 12 kids that this really fits for, they're scattered across, so you got a couple of them per class that get kind of lost behind, and if they're in a class together where they can go with that little slower pace, little different activities, those that are ready for kindergarten, you don't have a teacher being distracted trying to,
Right.
you know, adjust, I don't wanna say adjust down, but to fill that need where the kids are they just aren't ready to engage.
We can still get funded for this, correct?
Sure, it's kindergarten, and actually the state has said this, and I find with this, you know, the FAST and the tier testing that we're talking about, you would be surprised how many webinars that schools can't get, that when you put them in a pre-kindergarten, whatever they call their little kindergarten program, they want it to be a preschool. No, because that's a different silo of funds. You are in kindergarten, when you're 5 years old on September 16th, or 15th, whatever the date, you are a kindergartner. We get kindergarten dollars for that child. We're not getting preschool dollars. But so many of them can't get past that. They want to keep them in preschool 2 years, kindergarten 1 year. Well, that's not the way funding works, so.
And what about curriculum for
Cur-
this?
Curriculum, well, if you're talking the series or whatever.
No, just so that they're not gonna have the same curriculum, so that when they go to kindergarten, they're gonna be bored.
Same
right?
books. You're talking the same books.
Right.
Versus like the standards are still the same.
Right.
We would have to look at that, but the standards are still the same. You still have kindergarten standards, we have to teach that, that's.
Right.
And so we would probably have to look at what we're gonna do to make it a little different, but the goals are still the same.
What's been the push for this?
Some are going to the other school for optional kindergarten, you know, we get food from that way, and they come back, but, you know, it's just an idea of, but I still think our public want full day, most of them, I think I had one maybe that said half day, or something like that, but they could still, in this situation, could switch, you know, Thanksgiving, I wanted my child to go all day, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to it. And you gotta, the busing makes a difference too, because these 15 kids or whatever you're talking about, could be all over, and so it's a half-day program, you're really.
So basically, is all you'd have to do is go the full day and just use one of your teachers that you had in kindergarten and
Right now,
call optional
yeah, if we, depends on
if
enrollment.
enrollment and go in there.
It's an option.
And,
so-
yeah, it's an option. And I'm glad you're looking into that, that's, I like
Well,
hearing that.
there's I just met, like I said, with a mom today, and she said, this is what I really want, and I just hope we can get it, so.
Well, I'm sure the press will help us out on that, and they'll have that in the,
I've heard a lot
On
of
the
people
media for
interested in that,
us.
so.
Yeah, and it's good, I think it's you know what, it's our customers, they're our stakeholders, you know, you've gotta meet their, and I think when somebody asks me why, I think our stakeholders are asking for it, so maybe that's what we have to look at.
all right, keep putting your feelers out, I like that, and then we'll see.
Yep,
I got another question.
Sure.
We talked about before, the parents coming in and signing a contract if their
Yeah.
kid's not proficient. What happens if that kid never can make proficient?
well, we just keep working on it, so the information goes to the next fall's teacher.
Do they
Also,
have to-
we offer summer school, we'll offer.
Do they have to
summer
come
school.
back in and sign another contract
No,
again?
their contract is good for that, but it's just like, so when our fourth graders go to fifth grade, and no matter what, it goes all the way to high school. If a student is not meeting the reading standard, it's up to teachers at fifth grade to work with the ones that aren't meeting proficiency. Now, Iowa assessments can trump that, so if they're proficient on Iowa assessments, it can also help. You know, so it's a matter of, you just keep them in mind and you always work with them with reading all the way up.
We only bring them in once.
Well, you'll bring them, you'll have them at conferences in the
I
fall.
mean, do you sign contracts like this?
Probably just to make sure the parents are engaged and know what's going on,
Exactly.
you know, just to
Exactly.
share.
But we do it, we have them come in the first
It's
year
good.
and then,
Yeah, and we would always have them come in with conferences, just like after a year, you know, and each contract's a different grade level, there's a different, little bit of a tweak in the contract. So there's different things that, you know, learn new words is at kindergarten and first grade. Well, we don't have that at third and fourth grade. We don't have learn new words because that's just part of reading. You know? So the terminology and the student responsibilities and parent responsibilities are a little different.
okay.
Mr. Raymond?
All right. We have a flag essay assembly that's scheduled for Thursday, February 19th at 8:30 in the middle school gym. This is something new to me, being a fifth grade contest. Apparently it's been held for the past 5 years, and we are sponsored by the Breda American Legion Post. Vern Weber and Don Durner will be the ones that will help with the contest. Purpose of the contest is to develop a deeper knowledge and appreciation for the United States flag, and the essay is limited to 300 words, and we do have a winner, but can't share that with you unless you want to come to the gym on the 19th at 8:30. So we'll announce our winner at that time. Last week we had the Carroll Chamber of Commerce 2015 Career Pathway panel, and it's when area business people come in and address the following career pathways. I have a back page here that just shows you, I want to pass that around, shows who those business area people that came into the Carroll Middle School. And the pathways that are addressed are agri-science, natural resources, arts, communications, business information, management, marketing, engineering, industry, and technology, and also family human services and health sciences. And panel takes on questions from the students, and we have it at our 8th grade because we do I Have a Plan. It gets students into thinking about the future and what jobs and professions they may be interested in, and they match that up to the courses that they plan on taking in high school. A few other things, math curriculum team continues to meet, where we are looking at curriculum, reviewing the process that goes along with that, and we'll be meeting for the rest of the year and for next year. And these are all of our math teachers that are in the Carroll Middle School building. Sue mentioned some information about data collection. We just finished our classroom implementation profile, which is part of our AIW process, and we'll get that put together, and then we will compare that data to the fall data that we collected and see if the AIW standards we have made progress in those. So we're looking to look at that. We are in the early stages of interviewing. I'll let Tammy speak on that as she talks about the band that we've been working with. We continue with our professional development and AIW scoring, and we got some great feedback from the time when we met with high school, middle school staff, and one of those areas was the area of essential questions, which fits right in with what we do with AIW. Essential questions basically start the process of the teacher getting the kids to stimulate the thought process, get that inquiry thinking, and really start developing that construction of knowledge that we want with AIW, whereas these are not just simple one-answer questions. It's something that simply essential questions can't be answered in one classroom lesson. It takes place over a course of time, and the reason for that is because, like I said, students need to start developing that construction of knowledge and create that higher order thinking before they can really dive in well and think highly on those questions. That's information from this.
Tammy?
I gave all of you a handout already. A lot of the news that I have in here, the paper does such a fabulous job of covering, but I did want to highlight some of the things that are going on. In fact, if you looked at the paper tonight, there was a nice agriculture addition to the paper, and a very nice article on the FFA, the Carroll FFA, and all of the area FFAs. And there's also some specific information in here about an event that Brady took a couple students at Adair Casey. Some students actually trying and vying for a district office, which hasn't happened before. And I have been down at that building, and there's some pretty amazing things going on down in the ag building. I would invite any of you to go down there and take a look. Another highlight on that front page, our large group speech competition. We have 3 going to Allstate, and 2 of them are vying for the banner. And that's quite something. That's quite an accomplishment, so we're very proud of them. Now into individual speech. One just kind of melds into the other. Jerry talked a little bit about the career pathways. And we have had a much more concerted effort this year in making partnerships with community constituents, and that just kind of trickles on over into the high school. And we had a great day last Thursday, I believe it was. Oh, I have it on there, the 12th, whatever day of the week that was. And we had community members open up their doors. We had St. Anthony Hospital, Pella Corporation, Graphic Edge, New Hope Village. I know I'm forgetting some people, but they opened the doors to our students and actually had them work hands-on with anything from giving injections to listening to breathing sounds on a mannequin in the DMAC Education Center, to welding, to doing things with vehicles, to checking out some business pathways too, and that was very, very interesting. Our students really had a good time with that. Again, you can look through those things at your leisure and ask me any questions if you have them. One other thing that we have started at Carroll High School, and it actually evolved from an individual professional development plan, and that's mentoring group. Notice today lots of partners, students working together during homeroom time, just kind of social and academic support. Moving on to what's going on in the classroom, I've highlighted just a couple of things. Again, if you read through that later and have any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer those. Laverne arranged for Brian Best to come and visit on a week ago Friday, Laverne, I think it was. And actually, he was just going to come and have sort of a roundtable discussion with 2 board members, 2 community members, 2 students, and myself. And I said, hey, can we have him come talk to the government classes? And mind you, this is very early, not only in the semester, for the government classes, but also for Mr. Best in his, position at the State House. And, the feedback that was given from Mr. Pock, who was the government instructor, he said he was so proud of his students and the questions that they asked. And, I think we had pretty good discussion at the meeting afterwards too. Those are always great authentic experiences to bring in, for the students. So we really appreciated you setting that up, Mr. Dirks. NASA trip, you can see that the students, applied and those 4 were chosen. Very excited about that. Let's see. We also are doing our classroom implementation profiling tomorrow. Registration is in full swing, getting those classes plugged in. 8th graders are almost done. We have all of our other students for 9th through 11th grade are due on the 20th. And that helps us determine who's taking what classes and how we're going to divvy that up. I've got some information on professional learning in there. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to answer those. Jerry touched a little bit on the band interviews. We've completed one and we have one coming up on Friday. So we are moving forward with that process.
Have there been very many interviews?
We had approximately 13 applicants just on our side. I haven't looked on Teach Iowa, but, we just have started, so.
Any questions for any of the principals? Otherwise, principals, thank you, and you can head out if you'd like, unless you'd like to stay.
Tell me one.
Okay, I'm gonna go down to age discussion improvements with Carol Stadium. I'm gonna take that so we can, we have some people hanging around for that, so. Booster Club folks met with us, last Friday, Dwayne. And of course, they're wanting to know what we want to do with the Carroll football field. And I guess it's time we should to bring this up again and just kind of spark some community interest on, what do we want to do with our football stadium? As we all know that it sure hasn't gotten any better since the last time we visited about this, but I think what we should do, and this is sure up to board discussion, is probably get some community members together. And I know Mr. Dirks sits on a committee with some gentlemen that I guess I'm gonna call them the baseball group that are kind of spearheading the baseball stadium. They're kind of interested in what happens down in our area, the football field, and anything else that's got to do with projects down there. So I'm just gonna kind of open this up, for discussion, what board members are thinking, but I guess it's time we need to revisit this and just, decide what we want to do here. I know there's 3 or 4 things that down the road we're gonna have to decide what we want to do. Is, you want to do it in phases? Do you want to have one big home side, one small visiting side? I mean, I'm just throwing these out just for ideas. Do you want to do anything with the field? It's just several different things that we have to decide on. Of course, the biggest one is how we're going to pay for it. That's always the kicker. So I have Mr. Cordes put this on the agenda for us. So this is Dwayne's idea and mine to bring this up. So, and I appreciate what our booster club is. They've come to us and asked what can we do. They want to definitely help. So I'm going to open up for discussion with other board members to get their ideas, what you're thinking. If you want to do anything, you don't want to do anything at all, you just want to drop it, or, I mean, this is just definitely discussion only. Nothing's been done, it's just, I thought I would bring it before the community and before the board, so.
I think that booster group is kind of really a standstill until we make a direction for where we want to go. What do we want to do? What do we want to look at? they're kind of ready to get, you know, blood work on it, what we need to do. They just like, they just want direction for what we wanna do. We wanna plan anything together in the near future, or just, they're ready to kind of come work. And they got some funds too that they want to set aside. To go through with kind of thing. But again, it was just, that's what we had the meeting. We were just not saying, hey, just where are we at? What do you wanna do? We're gonna wait a year, so.
Yeah, basically their question is, what is the board gonna do? Is the board doing anything at all? And, as Dwayne and I told them right now, no, we're not doing anything, but I said we will put it on the agenda because we have this board meeting tonight, so it's definitely open for discussion. What direction we wanna go. I know we have some plans that have been drawn up that we've had from the last time around, so, I mean, they're not set in stone, but they're at least something to go off of. You know, I would suggest you get some different community members together and, go from there. Laverne, I know, like I said, you sit on that, I'm gonna call it the baseball committee,
I'm in the city park.
City park.
Well, I'm on both.
Both, okay.
Well, one of the things I think we need to do is, what type of allocation of money would we be able to support this? Looking at tonight, it doesn't look like much per year. It seems to be a little bit of misconception out there that they think we can support quite a bit of the finances of this, which is our current silo fund. We're looking at tonight, that's about a zero.
And that's one thing I did mention to him, I said, we would know more what we had for funds after the bids were taken care of tonight, and you answered the question already, so.
Well, not only just Fairview and that for immediately a year or two, but even 5 years down the road. You know, we just don't have much left after we make our yearly payment on our bonds left to support that. I don't know what number that would be, but it'd get you pretty tight.
You have 7 plus
But-
another, you probably, if you use Pepple along with it, you get about $1 million.
Yeah, but you got a lot
That's
of,
right.
a lot of things we gotta take out of that amendment. So it's not looking like there's probably much financing that the Silo and Pebble can do to support this. Is what I'm getting at.
Right.
And I
That's
think-
why we're having this
and I
discussion
think
tonight.
a lot of people that talk to me anyway, feel there is money there. We probably need to make that clear that pretty tight, at least for the next few years at least, for sure.
Well, is that,
It's probably all the way through.
is that common because of the Fairview project, you know, funds are?
Well, all the projects that
Well,
that we borrow money for, we gotta.
And I told them, you know, we spent, with all the projects together, even before we brought this one in tonight, I said, you know, we, like you said, we spent a pretty good
Isn't
chunk
our
of money.
yearly bill gonna be like $650,000 a year?
No, it's about 620.
Yeah. So that's close to half of what we take in from Silo alone. Then you got so much in technology every year, and you gotta buy buses every year. It's not long, and you gotta make just lists, you gotta pay for that every year. You don't have much left to throw at this, is what I'm getting at. So, you know, even if you had 100,000 left, or 200,000 left that you could project that you may have somewhere down there, that's not even begin to be enough for a project like that you could depend on that kind of money. So what I'm setting at is, what you need to think about, the group that's in this, is it's gotta be totally bond issue. You can't do any support, or very little support off the site.
And you're absolutely correct, after what happened tonight, you are,
Well, you've got about 3 avenues. You can go and try to pass a general obligation bond, 60% majority, super majority. For a, you know, I don't know how much you want to bond for. You could, take out, more revenue bonds, against your future, sales tax. If you wanna borrow another, $3-4 million, spread that out over time. That's doable, but again, then that cuts back on what you're gonna do other places.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
that's what we
doesn't-
just discussed, there's not
yeah.
much there for that.
But, I mean, you can do it from the standpoint of you're spreading that payment out. And then certainly the third one would be if there was a physical plant and equipment levy, X amount of dollars, 75% of your projected revenues. And if I recall, that was somewhere around $12 or $14 million over that. But that's been a few years ago now, so.
That'd be scary to do that.
Even if you did, I'm just gonna say $2 million,
Yeah.
your payment would go up another,
Well,
you probably,
Probably is,
Get anything wrong.
you'd be
Well,
locking
you-
your future boards pretty tight.
Yeah. I guess that discussion I thought needed to be made because now you can look at, don't rely on that, you have to go after dollar for dollar of what you're dreaming of. And that could change the dream. Once this group of people get together and realize, it's 100% supported by both.
Jeff, did you have some ideas?
Not at this point. The only thing would be possibly a phasing, I mean, that's.
Phasing.
Right. You wanted to start, try to get something going, but.
But you still got to bond it.
Right. Should have funds.
What were they thinking of for the stadium? For like having it like it is now with the two larger sides with the one?
There wasn't any discussion to get to that detail, it was just more, you know,
Are you talking about it, or are you gonna do it?
yeah, it's really like, you know, what are we gonna do here, really, just, let's, you know, and it's gonna, you know, I guess we just gotta get some people together and begin to start, you know, brainstorming and talking and,
I'd volunteer to be on it.
And I would too, 'cause I know you're on that, your parks and baseball committee, work, so.
and I wonder at some point too, but I just, you actually be raising some private funds off and not even trying to bond 100%, but to do, you know, have a target out there of, you know, to reduce that, for the level that has some fundraising things that are done.
How's the baseball stadium?
Well, the city allocated money for that, they're gonna make those repairs. That's
But they also did private funds.
Yes, they did both, yeah. They got the money to move forward. I think the city gave them over 400,000. Yeah, they got the money for it. And I
Most
think
of the
that's-
schools have more.
Should we discuss who we want to, what groups of people we want to have in this?
Well, I know your group came to me long ago and said if you ever do anything, please keep us in mind, and we definitely need to do that. You know, the booster, go ahead.
I would caution you on the board, having that board appointment committee. There's a parent group, booster club group wanna do it, that group wanna do it, and you be part of it, that's a different conversation than the board putting the committee together.
That's true. Because that's what we did last time.
The board put the committee together, or I didn't want it.
You know, you'd have the booster clubs from both schools, administrators from both schools, definitely, you know, some community members?
If you have an ad hoc committee of the board, they're required to post meetings, all, follow the open meetings law, everything. And I'm certainly not trying to circumvent that, but what I'm saying is that that's additional paperwork, time, depending on who's leading it, are they familiar with it? I think if you want a parent group or booster club group spearheading it, then let them get the committee together and invite members of the board.
That's a good idea.
And you can decide whether you're going as a board member or you're going as a community person.
Weren't they here about a year ago, and we told them to come back with a plan?
They were
It was
here.
like Chad and
That wasn't
there was
that
a
long
group
ago.
of them.
Oh, the booster club?
It wasn't just
It was
boosters,
just
it was
a-
a group of parents, and they were gonna come back with a plan, and that kind of just.
I
fizzled.
think it was more for concessions.
And here's what they wanted to do, they wanted to build a separate building right now, which, you know, I appreciate all their help they wanna do, but they wanted to put up a little building down there, and we can't do that because that's not part of the big plan. It would be a shipwreck because of plumbing and electrical, and then when you did finally do projects, you'd be tearing it all back out, so it just said, we appreciate them wanting to do something, but it's gotta be part of a plan, that just wouldn't fit.
I will say that the community perspective on this has changed since the last time we talked about it. You know, a lot of people took some focus on this, and they have realized the shape it's in. There's a little bit of change of attitude out there.
Laverne, why don't you visit with your group and just see if they wanna maybe look at it, we'll mention something to Booster Club, the way we said we'd report back to them, so.
I would hope it would be, my hope and vision would be, it would be something that, was neutral to an extent, something that both schools could play on and it's nice, and we can come together as a community to support it.
It's gonna be used by the community, so I think
Right.
the more community it feels,
Right.
to some extent, the more successful it's gonna be.
Group I'm on is more than just a football field. It's Grant Park, and other things like
Yeah,
that.
they're looking at Carroll community. That's exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
Do that.
All right, any other questions, otherwise we'll. Okay, we're gonna go back up to B, discuss calendar waiver process.
Well, as you know, the guidance from the department has come out regarding waivers. Waivers are due, by, I think, March 15th is the date. Unless the board directs me otherwise, I am not planning on submitting a waiver. The reason for that is that I don't believe the data that the department is asking for exists. And I think they have been very specific on what they're asking for. I think anybody that submits one, they certainly have more time on their hands than I do, for one, and two, I'd like to know where they're getting their data that's gonna be accepted. I just don't see a way of being granted. I'll be shocked if there are any. And on top of that, there's legislation to come to some type of compromise on starting the 23rd of, not being able to start prior to the 23rd of August. And in that bill, there is also no waivers. And so, my guess, that's probably the best case scenario for districts. board control. Well, that's what I think it should be.
Or
Not
you,
the-
or TV, the Southeast Polk superintendent said the exact same thing.
I don't think it exists, I don't think the data exists, I think they were, I think that was their plan to begin with when they wrote the guidance.
What is this July 1st thing that just popped up? What were they talking about Saturday?
That bill is, it's got no traction. Would simply give it, sole discretion of the board of when they wanted to start school in their district. Because that's the first day of the fiscal year, and so, that would be the version of 100% local control works inside the schools.
So did they just disregard, because didn't we turn in a waiver at the beginning of this year?
No, we held a public hearing, in order for the calendar committee to consider that, starting earlier than the week in which September 1st falls. And then later, they came out with this guidance.
I'm along with Mr. Cordes, that you'll be wasting your time, so there's no use even pursuing it, so.
Any thoughts on when we may get a decision on this to put a calendar together?
They're in gas tax right now.
Yeah, we are getting phone calls on that now.
Is the best guess that you have the 24th, or after the 23rd, that we'll be able to?
Yeah, I think that's got a real shot at passing. I don't know what I think I read something today that the governor did taped Meet the Press or Meet Iowa Press or whatever it's called on Sundays. Did a taping of that, and I don't know, maybe it was on last Sunday, I don't know. But he came out and said that was a possible compromise that he could live with the no waivers and starting, well, gets him back to the state fair, and that's all he's at.
That's a pretty good compromise, I think that's what
I mean, it's certainly better than having to wait till the week in which September 1st falls. It matches up, I mean by that, it matches up better with community colleges.
And what does the start?
20. I just, I'll go back, I think I've said it before, is that he's all worried about K-12, why isn't he worried about the region schools and the community colleges? Evidently those students don't go to the state fair. They don't spend tourism dollars. They're all, they're funded with the tax dollars, so.
Here's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in the next 7 years of the state fair, the 23rd is the last date. Some of them are the 19th, 18th, any dates.
But that's,
That's, whatever, we'll just wait.
That's what he's at.
We'll just wait.
All right.
Okay, moving on, FFA land lease with the Fricky Brothers.
copy of the lease, same lease as it was a year ago. Approximately 22.5 acres at $350 an acre. Flat fee is $7,875. Only thing changed on the contract are the years.
We were a year behind before we got the bump. So I suppose
This is makeup year?
makeup year, and Ron did come and he covered everything with manure, so it's like $150 to $200 value of the year before this year.
Okay.
If commodity prices stay low next year, we'll probably should back a little bit.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the
Second.
Farm lease, yes, stated, okay.
Jen?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Laverne?
Yes.
Dwayne?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes. Okay, update job descriptions for speech coach, assistant large group / individual.
Both of those really can be done together. The only change on there is that we have stricken the part that says a valid Iowa teacher certificate is needed. You don't have to have a teaching license to coach speech. In fact, one of ours does not have a teaching license, and all we're doing is, as you can see, this was approved in '89, and '89, you know, to do it, just like coaches, you had to have a teaching license. Well, that's no longer true for athletic coaches either anymore, and so, we'd ask that you, just revise those two statements in the two job descriptions.
Need a motion, please?
All right.
Pretty simple.
I'm looking at the updated job descriptions for speech coach and, large group, individual speech. Two of those students.
Second.
Assistant and head.
Assistant head coach, there you
Dan,
Yes.
Laverne,
Yes.
Dwayne,
go. Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Jen.
Okay, discuss timeline for the FY16 certified budget process.
Just, remember that you have to have your budget certified, no later than April 15th. You have to have a budget hearing prior to that. You have to publicize your, notice in the paper of your hearing at least 10 days and no more than 20 days prior to your hearing. So, really, I would suggest that you set it, you look at dates that you want to have a hearing and then work backwards from there. Typically, we have a hearing somewhere in early April. But you tell me.
Do you have any idea when they're actually gonna set the SSA?
No, but you have to publish a budget that's gonna create the highest tax rate possible. And for us, that would be 4%. So we have to, you can, once your budget has been published in the paper, you can only decrease the levy and not increase it at all. And so, we've run the numbers, and 4% generates the highest tax rate. I don't think there's any fear of it going higher than that. So,
If we will, if it is, we live it.
there you go.
Take our meeting.
So,
So do you want set some dates now?
well, I
Or
would
you-
simply because that allows us then to, I'm assuming, and maybe wrongfully, but typically the board has a budget work session. And then if you want to change something in the budget, you have an opportunity to change something in the budget from what Gary and I have prepared. And there may be, the board, one thing the board's going to have to decide is what percent of income surtax you want on the instructional support levy. So that's a decision the board has to make. And that then varies, that has an impact on what your property tax rate is. And so I would suggest you have a budget work session, and then you have a few days to get the budget to the paper and the waiting period. And I'm looking at April 2nd, but I'm just throwing that out there.
For the.
Having a hearing.
How's that look for everybody?
Better than letter. When you wanna do a thing.
Yeah, you can't back more down on the 10th, so what happens?
We have the hearing on the 2nd. 2, 3, 4. We would probably publish sometime the week of March 16th. Have your hearing on the 2nd, and then you want to have a budget work session prior to the week of the 16th. Would be my suggestion.
We could do it first week in March.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
We're ready to go anytime you are for the budget work session.
Say first week.
The first week in March, I'm pretty open next week.
Is that-
I'm gone 4 days next week.
Couple hour thing?
Oh, I think we could do it in an hour, 90 minutes at most.
90s.
First week of March, I'm free, second week, like Dwayne, I'm not.
All right,
Dwayne
sorry.
and I got first week free, but second week not. In
On March,
In March?
I would suggest you do it the week of the second.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's up to those.
You said you had the first week in March.
First week and free.
Yeah.
For both of us.
Oh, you mean March second?
Yes, March 2nd.
That week.
So what day and what time? Do you wanna do I'm just throwing this out, a late afternoon? Like,
I'm free for anything.
4 o'clock? I'm just throwing this out.
I don't have nothing on the books yet.
I think 4 o'clock, is that work good for you guys, 4 o'clock, all right? Is that all right, Jen, for you, 4 in the afternoon, or
Can we make it like 4:10 so I can get kids home and settle?
we can get 4:30,
How about the fifth?
Thursday the 5th? Is there, basketball? There's
Boys
a,
State tournament will be the next week.
that on Monday, the 2nd, if they would ever get a sub-state game to go, if they were to go that far. I'd be out of town, probably, I think that means.
On the second.
On the
The
second, that
next
night.
game would probably be a Friday.
No,
March-
No, that was the
March
one that
10th
goes
is
to
the
state
first,
tournament.
March
following
10th is the
following.
first, 10th, 12th, and 14th are 3 days.
Okay, so March
So-
5th at 4:30, is that what I'm hearing?
Okay.
Yeah.
Budget workshop.
Okay.
4:30.
I'll give Jen-
Got that down, Virginia, or do I have to email you?
Both?
Right here?
The hearing, the budget hearing, what time are you doing that?
Do we need to record that?
Record what?
Budget.
Work session? It's up to you. Not my decision. I'm not in charge of the camera.
I'm not either.
Um,
The
The hearing, typically the hearing is at noon, but I
Noon.
mean, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't take real long.
I prefer that.
Okay,
April the second is noon.
at 12 o'clock here.
Okay.
Okay. That all we need then?
We'll do the workshop here too.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll do the motion on both dates.
I think that,
Kevin?
I would tell you that I think it's good if you can, because then it can be on that cable station. But again, that's not our decision, that's, I think it's be something that would be good to have on the cable.
Both the hearing and the
I think
work
both would
session.
be.
Workshop.
Of the two, I would tell you the budget work session would be more important.
Yeah, but the hearing's pretty short, so that won't.
Thursday, noon, prime night from
On the 2nd?
there.
Okay, so now need a motion on those 2 dates and times, everything here.
One time work session,
4:30.
Hot dog.
one time,
A one time? Yeah, we're doing it once,
one session.
one session.
Hopefully.
So bring your dinner.
If we can't get it done then we're not gonna do it.
That's fine.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion on those 2 dates, please?
So I'll move to approve or move to have the hearing for the budget at noon on April the second, Thursday, April second, and our budget workshop on March 5th at 4:30. Both of them here in the boardroom.
Second?
Laverne,
Yes.
Dwayne,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
Was there ever a motion made on that meeting at 5:30? There was
Yeah.
one. Well, I was not with it.
Yeah, we can handle
Probably more once in a while, truth be known.
Just a little.
Okay, last thing, administrative report, discussion on state supplemental state aid.
Oh, skip it.
Well, this doesn't need to take a lot of time. You have a packet in your folder tonight. This was a tool put out by IASB, and I think it's a pretty good one. The front page shows you the difference between the House version at 1.25 and the Senate version at 4% for FY16. Most of this, it has to do, the front page has to do with the entire state. So what they're saying there is 1.25 costs the state 64 million, the 4% costs the state 135 million. Just breaks things down. But more importantly then, on the next pages, for example, page 2, got a few extras here. On page 2 is what it means for Carroll, 1.25, and the only reason it is because if you recall, we were up 15 students last fall. The 1.25 is 236,524 compared to a 4% at 532,501. Then what I did was I just took that, then I started at 2% and worked my way up at a 0.25% each time. And so you see what that looks like.
The estimate net new money after salary benefit increase, what do you factor in?
They're guessing that's, what they did was they looked at the state average the last 4 years, which has been at 3.6%. They had to have it, I'm not sure why they did that, to be honest with you, Dwayne, but they had to have a percent.
It just gives you an idea of what money you got above negotiated sum at 56 or above.
I think that's correct.
I would, what I would suggest is that any chance that you get to talk to either our senator or our House of Representative, that you push them for 4%. The state of Iowa, as I'm sure you've read, ranks 35th in the country in per pupil spending, $1,600 plus behind the national average. That should not be acceptable for Iowa's kids.
Let board members know that includes instructional support levy money. So, statewide. No, if you didn't have it, you could be 38th or 40th or whatever it is. That's just $4.
So that's
Okay. All right, move on to business office report. Capital outlay, certified testing services.
My recommendation would be to table both of those under capital outlay because they both have to do with the Fairview project. And once you decide what you want to do with that project, then I would say you can move forward with those. But until that time, there's no use approving certified testing if the project's not going to go.
You put them on that same agenda.
Correct.
On the agenda with the-
It'll be on the agenda on Friday.
Is that money on that worksheet you gave us? Is it, are those
That would
amounts
be,
on here?
that would be part of the other.
Other.
Of the other costs?
That would be part of the 150.
Okay.
One, I think, is 10,500, the testing, and I think,
17,900
is it seven, I thought it was higher than that, Jim, but I thought it was 30-some thousand, but I don't know. 17,901. That's for the trolley.
Together.
So, but there, like I said, there isn't any reason to act on that tonight if yeah, the other budget update reports are just, payroll hasn't been run, so we don't have an update there for you on the general fund, but the PEPAL and sales tax budget reports are up to date on the website. And you can go in and check those out. Both of those currently are, well, and you saw it tonight, that other sheet that I gave you is they're in pretty good shape.
motion to sort of move the,
Do we need to move those motions?
yeah, let's move the capital outlay.
Yeah, we should have a
Let's
motion to capital, to table those.
Table that to conjunction with the February 20th meeting if I agree. Well, who's acting as president? So we gotta do it now. So I'll just ask for a motion. Table that.
Go ahead, you do the motion.
I have a motion to move the capital outlay projects to that February 20th, 5:30 meeting.
Second that?
Dwayne,
Yes.
Kim, Jen,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Larry.
Yes. Budget update, reports, it says it is. Correspondence, announcements, information.
I don't have anything.
Any suggestions for the March 16th board meeting? We got fiscal year 2015 audit and what's happening with that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, suggestions for the,
We got
got that?
We got that. We got it with options.
Exempt session?